first time we've got an apprentice online, thank you, and various other people, and it's fantastic that you are tuning in, and thank you very much indeed. Now, the usual Zoom applies, which is please to put yourselves on mute. Specifically tonight, not just because we're going to be hearing from Anne, but she's going to be playing us some lovely music from VOCES8 and from the children involved. And so I'm sure it will be even better if, in fact, you are on mute. So just put yourselves there. I think Garth probably can put everybody on mute if you don't do it yourself, but you could find your mute buttons. It would be great, just so that no telephones or screaming children come into the room that would interrupt. So this is the fourth of these events, and it's been great that we've been able to get together during the lockdown. Tonight we've got Anne Wright, who, because many of you have said hello Anne, you all know who Anne is. Anne's the Director of Education for the VOCES8 Foundation. Our nearest neighbours down at St Anne and St Agnes at the church, and the foundation, as you know, does wonderful singing with professional groups, but in particular the area we're involved with, our charity supports their work with young children mainly in the east of London, where they have no musical education otherwise. And those of us who have been to the occasional concert will know how fantastic it is to see the enthusiasm of the children, and also of the teachers, to be fair, and of the professional musicians leading them. So it's great to hear tonight from Anne, and I think I'll hand over to Anne. She is going to be sharing her screen, and we've tried out a couple of videos. They both work, so let's keep our fingers crossed. Anne, over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Master and Garth, and it's a pleasure, everyone, to join you. Hello, Nigel, and I see Tim, and I know a number of you, but I'm mentioning past masters who've been very kind to work with us and have come see our projects, and Bill is here as well. So I'm honored to be asked. And yes, I'm going to share my screen so that we can start and I can show you what we've been up to. Okay, so that should be up there now for all of you. As many of you know, the VOCES8 Foundation has two professional ensembles, and we also have a very big and important education arm. And my role is looking after that arm of our work in the UK, because we do work all over the world, in fact. And the Plaisterers have been supporting us a great deal for our work in London, primarily in East London. So tonight I'm going to focus on the work that you have supported, with some stories, some facts, time for you to ask questions, of course, and update you on what life is like right now in the schools that we work with and for our singing team. And there will be a little bit of marketing in here as well, because our singing team has something very exciting coming up. And I know that Nigel is aware of this as well. So he might also be speaking with you or contacting you at some point about it. So we'll just, oops. Apologies for that. Yes, so there's a little poster there on that screen, and this is the thing that I'm going to be sharing with you a little later on. Our organization is launching a Live from London series for people to enjoy live music at home. So, and we will be filming and live streaming this from the centre, right around the corner from Plaisterers Hall. Socially distanced, it's all being carefully looked after. So I'll share more about that with you a little later on. I'm going to start with where we are now, and I'm sorry if pandemic talk is not necessarily what you'd like on a Thursday evening, but I think it just needs to be addressed because people have lots of questions about it. When schools were closed in March, we were working in 7 London primary schools. 5 of those were in Tower Hamlets and 2 in Hackney. We have managed to reach 4 of them through a number of means. The 2 main means being, we began almost immediately a series of free online activities, videos and things called Live from Home. And there was something every day of the week, and 2 days had singing activities that were suitable for children and families. And we made sure that our schools were all aware of these and our music hubs. And as long as a home had internet access and a phone or tablet or a computer, they could access these. All our other education work in the UK was postponed, as you can understand. We have started now some things again, but as you can imagine, schools have found this time incredibly difficult, and despite some of the negative press which has been around, teachers are working incredibly hard. And these particular London schools, the ones in Tower Hamlets, have a very high Bangladeshi population. So even before schools closed, parents were stopping sending their children to school because they were afraid. And then communicating with parents is tricky. And in each of these schools, there are a number of families that don't have the internet, let alone devices to access any online learning. And I have been in constant touch with some of the teachers, particularly from one of the schools in Hackney, which I'm going to talk to you about, because they are desperate to have a lot of singing that their children can access, because they know the benefits of it. And they're very happy to fit in time to talk to me, which, when I tell you that every class teacher phones every home at least once a week to speak with the parents, and every teaching assistant in this school and in a lot of others phones the children from difficult circumstances, vulnerable children, every day, and they must speak with a parent or carer as well as the child every day. And then some homes don't have devices or the internet, as I said, so online learning can't happen for those children. So teachers are producing paper packs and putting them in the post every week, answering additional phone calls from parents and helping them. And doing online lessons. So I won't go on about that more, but I think it's important for people to understand what's happening and the challenges if they aren't already aware, and I suspect you are actually aware. So as I said, we have been reaching people online, and we expect that that's going to carry on for the foreseeable future. Although I have had some updates today from colleagues, and they are telling me that the new guidance that came out today for schools does say that peripatetic music teachers will be allowed in come September. And so this would mean that we could potentially start going back into schools rather than doing things online, which I would welcome, but we will see. The positive aspects to this, there are 2 main ones for us. One is that I'm finding for training teachers, they like this online lark because it's easier to schedule it. So we can be a bit more flexible, especially right now, we're doing this from home. So we can offer different times and they can access it. So that's been very helpful for reaching busy teachers. And also the fact that we work further afield and we can't get everywhere all the time. The singers' schedules are so busy. So actually we've been able to reach some schools, some teachers, some communities via this online business, because our singers haven't been on tour traveling. So I'm not saying that we want this to continue, but we are going to be continuing to use the elements that work best, even when things can return to normal. Sorry about that, I have to put my cursor there. All right, so why is singing so important? I think the best way to explain this in the first instance is to give you some examples of what was happening in schools, and also something that I've been doing with some local children in my area. So I'm going to start with Tower Hamlets schools that are near Stepney Green, and we were nearly finished our project with them before schools closed down. Things that the teachers were noticing, and these were year 1 children, so ages 5 and 6, were that vocabulary was developing quickly, in some cases, more quickly than they'd expected. Children for whom English was a second language were picking up vocabulary in the songs and using it, and were more confident to try speaking new words. And it was also wonderful to see they were picking up on children who already had some vocabulary they didn't realize. I have a really cute example. We were doing a song about a dinosaur called Jazzosaurus. And Jazzosaurus is rather shy. So the words are, come out of your shell. Will you sing for us? We think you're swell. And I asked the children, what did it mean, come out of your shell? Well, one child held up hands and had a shell. Another described a dinosaur egg. And another, very shy, put up her hand and said, oh, I think the dinosaur might be shy. And the teacher was not aware that this child had that level of vocabulary because she doesn't speak very much in lessons. The other thing is just well-being. In one of the schools, they were having inspections, in particular concentrating on their maths lessons. And children all across the school were having maths lessons almost all day, one day that week. And we went in for singing at the end of the day. And I thought, oh boy, they're not going to want to engage. They're going to be worn out. And the teacher said to me, oh no, we've been waiting for this all day. They desperately need something to have some fun. And it's just been too tense. So this is great for their well-being. And that well-being factor applies not just to these children who come from quite disadvantaged circumstances, but also to all children. I'm currently doing a weekly online singing session for 5 children who live in my area, which is Newbury. Their parents sing in a community choir I run. And so they come from lovely homes. Both parents are working full-time. So that's creating a stress at home, of course, because they're having to homeschool. But all the parents are reporting that this singing session has made such a difference to the children's well-being. They're often missing their friends, feeling really down. Homeschooling can be a struggle. And they say that the singing session just really helps, especially on that day, just getting through that day. So, sing every day. I coined this for our work with year 1 children in particular, in order to get teachers singing with them for 10 minutes every day. Now I've got this gorgeous picture here of Claire and Greg, who are in Apollo 5. It's at the VOCES8 Centre. And the lovely young man there, he just loved leading. He is autistic and struggles with relationships with his peers. But just adores singing, has a wonderful voice, and always wanted to help. And actually that worked out beautifully because he was able to manage the challenges he has in a group setting by getting up and helping to lead. And then the little girl on the other side, she adored singing as well. So she was our co-leader for that workshop. I have little video clips just giving you a taste of the singing from 2 of the Hackney schools that took part in a project with us last year, and we're continuing to do follow-up with them. And I can't remember which shot. Tim, I think you make an appearance in this one because you were visiting one of the schools on the day the filming was happening. It usually just takes a second.
These
those little clips, which if there are any blips, it's my editing, and apologies for that. I have been learning to use iMovie, one of my training things over lockdown, and I'm not terrific at it yet, but I'm getting better. We were to have filming of the children from Tower Hamlets who were working with us last term, and then with the schools closing, that put paid to that. So we will be seeing them again, and then I'll obviously update you all on that. But so I've had to choose some footage from earlier on rather than very recent footage. So just a few questions for you. Did you know that many primary schools don't have a specialist music teacher? And that is actually probably the majority of primary schools now. Some primary schools don't even provide a weekly music lesson for the children. Initial teacher training programs, such as the postgraduate certificate for education, provide very little music teaching support, maybe 2 to 8 hours across their whole year. So if you remember that generalist class teacher in primary school, if there isn't a music specialist in school, then you have to teach class music, and at the most, you'll get 2 to maybe 8 hours of support during your training time. Last year, the Incorporated Society of Musicians did a survey, and only 8% of primary school teachers reported feeling confident about teaching music. Now, I share this with you because if we don't have a workforce that can do this in schools, then children are not getting all the musical benefits. And that obviously applies to the singing, but also to all music. Because even if teachers are asked to do it, they aren't confident to do it, and you can't really blame them. So we devised a program to work, as I said, with the year 1 and moving on into year 2, because those teachers I find are more open initially to skilling up to do it, and the best way to start with children is to get them young and then build it through the school. So the program that you have been supporting now for, you've supported lots of our London work, but specifically over the past 2 years, is this program with the younger children. So we deliver it across 2 terms. There's plenty of teacher training, which is necessary. There are also 5 visits each term to work with the children, and the teachers must be present in those sessions, and those are 100% practical singing sessions. And then there's a performance at the end of each term. Usually the first performance takes place in school, and we support that with a couple of our singing leaders. And then the second one, they come to the VOCES8 Centre. So they get a workshop and concert with Apollo 5. So they've had a real professional musical experience, as well as all the in-school work. Our program materials, the VOCES8 method, which is what the foundation talks about, that's just a set of rhythms and melodies that we can layer up. And they're a quick, easy way to get children making music. We also do lots of warm-ups for the body, the brain, and the voice, which teachers can use not just before singing, but at any time during the day. And then a range of songs, and I've just put up some of the ones that we've done with the younger children. We've done a Turkish song. We used it last year and again this year. One in Urdu, Kisine Banaya, which is gorgeous. It asks who made the flowers, oh, now I can't remember what, it was 3 asks about who created or who made, the stars and the sun, I think, as well as repertoire arranged by Apollo 5. So a cappella pieces that the children join in with the group to sing. When I asked earlier, why is singing important? I didn't talk to you about much in the way of curricular reasons, apart from vocabulary. I've been very fortunate about 10 days ago to take advantage of Zoom and do an interview with 3 teachers from Shoreditch Park Primary School. And this was the school that we started really intensively delivering this program last year, and we are still following up with them. So on your screen, you see underneath my face, Joanna Byrne, who's a year 1 teacher, and this is her 2nd year working with us. Then beside Joanna is Muna. Muna is a year 3 teacher. And then on top of Mana's head is Tamara. And Tamara was a year 1 teacher when we first started the project and then moved to year 3. This is important because we've been able to help the school expand the program from year 1 through to year 2 and year 3. And I'd like to share with you what Tamara tells us about singing and using it in the curriculum.
The singers at the front of the classroom as well. In subjects, it definitely has, because of some of the songs that we had learned is all cross-curricular, and thank you to you, Anne, for finding us different songs that link to the topics that we were teaching. So I remember, I think it was for year 1, there was some songs for dinosaurs, and I know one of your topics were dinosaurs. And we had a topic on rocks, and then we had a song on rocks and things like that. And it was really helpful for the children to get a bigger understanding of the subject. And also, sometimes a topic like rocks can seem quite boring, but when you add a song to it and things like that, it makes it come to life a lot more, and it engages children so much more. And for my
You raised something about getting the children to help you do it, and the kids are great at that because they remember everything. They're like little sponges, aren't they? And I was just thinking back to you last year, and we did the Turkish frog song, and Joe and Tamara, you had some of the year 1 children helping with the Turkish because they speak Turkish. Was it Joe? Did you tell me you had one child actually help teach the kids the Turkish?
Yeah, I had one child in my class who would have, English wasn't, he didn't have a lot of confidence in the class. English was his second language, and he would generally take a back seat. But just from doing that Turkish song and seeing, like, I was making so many mistakes, I was struggling with the pronunciation of things, and just for me to be able to just stop and turn and go, oh, how do I say this word? And for him to show everyone, this is how we pronounce it, this is how we sing the song. His confidence just went from 0 to 100. And he loved those music lessons. Mm-hmm. Even some of the afternoons, me just sitting on the carpet with the kids and getting him up to lead, that would never have happened in any other lessons. It was really lovely.
Yeah, that does. I think those are 2 lovely examples. The first song, I don't know if you heard the words, but it's about Mr. Double Trouble. So it's one of my favorite math songs for that age group when they're doing their multiplication. And Mr. Double Trouble's not a very handy man. he keeps having accidents. So he dropped his nail in the glue, and each thing gets doubled throughout the song. And I gave it to the teachers about 3-4 days before we were due to go in to do a singing session. And I gave it to them purely to work on their own, because the idea is that obviously we deliver lots of singing, but we're scaling up the teachers as well. So I give them things that they go ahead and teach the children. And we came in to find 3 days after I'd sent them Mr. Double Trouble that they'd learnt the whole song and put actions to it. And it was one of their favorite songs that year, so it was lovely to see. With this project and the work we're doing with this age group, I approached the Institute of Education at UCL, where Professor Graham Welch, who is a very well-known music researcher, particularly to do with the benefits of singing, and I asked if they might be interested in having a look at the impact of this project, because I wanted some data gathering and analysis by the experts. So I wanted to share with you some of that, because the virus has also very disappointingly put paid to us managing to reach the press and really make a big thing about the result of the research, because The report was finished in early January, and we then got it put all together and started seeking out avenues to promote it. And then the press, with everything that's happened, they just weren't interested. So we made the decision about 2 weeks ago that we're just going to share this now. So you are getting a first look at some of the results of the research. What did I want to look at? I'm sorry, this is a bit wordy. I'm very happy to share these slides for anyone who wants to look at it. Obviously, the demographics were important. When we decided to do the research, I felt it needed to be in the areas that have got the highest number of children living in relative deprivation. We also needed to measure their singing behavior. Obviously, if a singing group cannot help children improve their singing, then I think there's something wrong. We also looked at reading attainment and a sense of social inclusion. And I'll just say in the outset that that was done via questionnaires, pre and post project. And both Graham and I felt that wasn't terribly successful in the end. The questionnaires were probably better with an older age group, because the children that we were working with were 5 years old. And so he's going back to the drawing board for questionnaires for the future. And a measure of their sense of their quality of school life. And again, probably not successful necessarily with that age group. We also had members of the research team in to observe the classroom teachers when we weren't there, to see how they were getting on with leading the singing with the children, and then interview them, because we wanted to see if they were using the things that we use, and what they said about implementing singing for 10 minutes a day. So every day we asked that they do 10 minutes, and it didn't matter when in the day, they could decide, but 10 minutes of singing. We also looked at executive function. So that's gaining strategic control over personal, mental, metacognitive processes. I always have trouble spitting that out. So it's with relation to working memory and cognitive flexibility in particular, because there is some evidence out there that music has a positive impact on this. And we wanted to see what difference, and this, remember, this is just for 2 terms. We were in the school. So pre the project, the children all underwent tests in all these areas, and then post the project. This is one of these lower layer super output area maps. Some of you may be familiar with these. They're really handy. This map, each puzzle area represents population of about 1,000 to 1,500 maximum in Hackney here. And the color coding is according to deprivation affecting children. So the darker the red, the more families living in deprivation that affects children ages 15 and under. And the schools that we did the project with and have carried on working with, Shoreditch Park, you can see them, Thomas Fairchild Community School, those were the participating schools. And then Randall Kramer School on the other side, that was a control school, which I didn't mention. We were lucky enough to get a school to be a control, which is huge. It helps validate this kind of research. And I must add at this point that that had to have ethical approval by the university, and the school received a project with another year group, so they weren't left out. And then this year, in the autumn and spring term, we worked with their current year ones. So they did not miss out on working with us. It's just that their year 1 group, when we were doing the research, did not have a project. This is another one of those maps, and it shows you the concentration of Black, Asian, ethnic minority background families. And that also links in with English as a second language. An incredibly high percentage of children in these schools speak English as a second language. And during our time visiting there, they would get new children, newly arrived children, who hardly spoke any English. So School A, I can tell you that School A is Thomas Fairchild. It just gives you a quick look how many are eligible for free school meals and how many speak English as a second language. This data is a year old now. This year's data is not available yet, but it gives you a picture of the population nonetheless. School B is Shoreditch Park. What isn't on here is the number of children with special educational needs. It's higher at these two schools than the national population average by a fair amount. And in fact, the schools have noticed a greater number of children with special educational needs over the past 2 years. And this is the control school. Look at that number, 68.4% speaking English as a second language. And the participating teachers were all very nervous about singing. So this is important because, again, part of our role is upskilling the teachers, because we want to leave the schools in an excellent place and the teachers in an excellent place, able to do this themselves. So in each case, these teachers didn't feel confident about leading singing. And in school A, they actually felt they couldn't manage 10 minutes a day of singing, which was something we overcame, but that took work. Just a quick highlight of the improvements in singing. I won't spend ages on this, but this is one of Graham Welch's areas of expertise. He did the study for Sing Up, which was a national program a number of years ago, funded by the government for free, and he analyzed the data. Sing Up is still available, but it's no longer free. But it is a fantastic resource for schools, and I dip into it, loads of great songs. So if you just look at the benchmark in terms of measuring how the children, basically, can they sing a tune back rhythmically and have their pitch correct. And our children post-project scored higher than the national average for their year group in the data that Graham has. The control group you will see is a lot lower, which is what I had expected. So I was relieved to see that, not for those children, but it was a relief to see that our singing leading did make a difference. This is singing in tune. It's a different one, looking at how well they sing in tune. What is very interesting is you see the control school, Class 6 had a very big improvement. Class 5, it dropped. It turned out that Class 6 teachers actually had some performing arts experience. So she was doing a bit of singing with the children and we hadn't realized, but that's great, they improved. Quite a big difference in Class 3 at School B, Shoreditch Park. And that was down to, we think, the number of SEN children who had quite serious speech problems. So singing is naturally they can do it, but they're either very shy or they struggle to match pitch. So they sing, but they don't pitch correctly, which is fine. We're not there to turn them all into singers. We're there to give them a lovely experience and help develop their learning and well-being. I just love this picture. This was at the VOCES8 Center. All of them having a wonderful time. Executive function. Right, one of the ways they tested it was to give the children nonsense words, and they had to repeat them right away, and they would get a point for each correct repetition. And that is really great for working memory, and it fits very well with phonics, which obviously is a big focus, year one. The other one was a tapping response. If I were to tap twice and tell you each time that I tap twice, you have to tap once. And each time I tap once, you have to tap twice. This is the test that they were doing. And as their speed got quicker and quicker, it's not easy to do. And that was testing their response to see cognitively how quickly they could hang on to that. So this is the most exciting bit of the data. Their singing scores are positively correlated with aspects of executive function at the end of the project. So in other words, those children whose singing improved, their executive function also improved. This also linked in with reading, but reading was a little more challenging because reading tests, every school does the data slightly differently. And we just didn't have the budget for our own specific reading test. And frankly, I think that might have driven the schools round the bend, actually, just another thing to do. So we used their reading data, which was tricky to analyze because they all did it differently. So we're sure there's a link there, but scientifically, the best proof really here is the link between the singing and the executive function. And at this point, I should say that Professor Welch has submitted this to the Institute of Other Music Educators. It's the international organization, and they have accepted the paper, and it is now going to be presented online for music researchers and educators around the world. And then we wait to hear, this should be published in a journal, we hope. And another member of the team is also further using the data that we've gathered for further research into supporting non-specialist teachers. So this is quite exciting because we've had an impact not just on the schools we've been in, but also on further research and teacher training. I'm just going to whiz over this. This was, I left this in. It was the observation of the teachers in action leading singing, and all the brightly colored squares mean something. As perhaps the most exciting thing are the orange boxes and the red ones, because they show the pupils singing, the children singing, and the teachers singing. And those parts of the lesson were all active music making. And that's how the researchers color coded it. Just 3 quotes from participating teachers. One would never have had the confidence to do it. I love the children absolutely love it. And some days we do 15 to 20 minutes of singing. We might giggle about that, but if you're under pressure to get through all those maths and phonics and things, 15 to 20 minutes is quite a lot of time, but they were diving right in. And I think we have time. I have a case study which Joe is going to talk about, one of the Year 1 children this year. So because we've continued to support this school all the way through, these teachers are all using singing every day, and we're supporting periodically. And Joe has a student this year for whom this made a really big impact.
Here. I wondered if you had a little case study. I mean, we've done one with the child who spoke Turkish, but others about impact on them, the singing project, and something maybe specific with a child or children. Joe, if I go back to you, if you have one either from last year's group or this year's group.
Yeah, I have a child in my class who, I don't know, can I mention names?
Just maybe use a made-up name.
I'll just, yeah, yeah, he is a child that would have struggled staying within the classroom every day. He is slightly autistic. He generally wouldn't want to partake in anything that the general class are doing, and he's very set in his routine. So we were struggling at the beginning of the year to get him to follow the routines and get him to sit, even to sit on the carpet for longer than 5 minutes wasn't really happening. But he has a beautiful voice and he loves singing. He will sing to himself all day, every day, but absolutely lovely. And so we had the first session with Greg and Emily and yourself, and he wasn't particularly interested, but I could see him kind of hovering, kind of looking at what was happening. And he did this he didn't join in the first session, but he was looking at what was happening the whole first session. And then we had the second session, and I had pre-warned him, and Greg and Emily are coming in, and we're going to have our singing lesson. So we kind of talked about this the whole day. And from that session on, he would come, he would sit on the carpet, he would join in with everything. He would say, you know, if the session was an hour, probably about 50 minutes of that, he would be joining in and standing on that carpet space, which would have never happened before. And he really, really loved the lessons, and he really got a lot out of them. So in terms of teaching, you know, that child routine and just getting him to focus on an activity, it worked really, really well this year. And he actually, when we come back to the class in the afternoons, he will be singing those songs, and, you know, we'll be you know, everyone's doing their work and he'll start singing, and 2 minutes later, the whole class have joined in with them and we're all singing the songs. So yeah, it was something that for him, singing is his strong point, and just to be able to pull on that to, you know, whereas I can be in the lesson, we're singing, I can be focusing on with him on, you know, following a routine and listening to teachers' instructions and, you know, paying attention. And, you know, it worked really, really well with him.
That's amazing and really good, and important that he can also show that he can do that, learn the routine, but also singing, something that people can tell him he's good at as well.
Yeah, he actually, one of the days, I can't remember the song we were doing, but Greg was doing, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but he was doing the bass to us. Is that what I actually noticed when we sang the song again, Gina was the boy was following along with Greg, singing the bass perfectly though. And then every time there was a harmony that one of the singers would be doing, Gina would sing the harmonies as well.
Oh, wow. I'm going to make a note of that, so that next academic year, when he's in year 2, we can sort of keep an eye and see if we can encourage when we're in.
Yeah.
There are a number of other case studies like that about individual pupils, which is very helpful when we're looking at our impact, and also just really heartening to see. So the legacy with these 3 schools, School B, and that's the one that the teachers have interviewed, as I said, they have singing every day in year 1, 2, and 3, and they really do have singing every day, because they would not be making the progress that we hear when we go in, that in terms of just the quality and level of the singing, the sheer enthusiasm. The deputy head teacher who supports this, she always tries to catch me when I'm in to talk about it, which is great, because that means we've got leadership team engagement. And as I said, the standard of the singing, and I'm raising that because, again, these are non-specialist teachers. So the fact that they're not only doing the singing, linking it to the curriculum, but also the children's singing is improving, it tells you, it's not surprising, is it? Teachers are very good at what they do. They just need the upskilling and the confidence. And School A, Thomas Fairchild, the year 1 teacher, she continues to do singing every day with her year 1 as well. And she's taken on extra training sessions, and we've been in to support. It was a little trickier to get it across year 2, unfortunately, in that school. That's a more difficult school, but you never know. We don't give up, we keep in touch. And as I said when I started, we're still supporting those schools, and we also rolled out the project across 6 further primary schools. So there are 5 in Tower Hamlets and 1 in Hackney. And we are going to continue with this project. I've managed to get some more funding to keep us going, and we've got schools on a waiting list, which is incredibly important, I think, because they want to engage in it. I won't share this because, but if anyone is interested, I asked the teachers, why would you participate in this program having done it? And could I share this with teachers who are nervous, or senior leadership teams who aren't convinced that having singing regularly is important? Oh, I'm sorry about this. This is my comedy moment. One of the troubles or challenges that I have sometimes when we start a project is teachers not responding to emails. Often it's because they're busy, but sometimes it's just they put that to one side. And if I can't reach them on the phone and I can't reach them by email, it can be difficult. So these are my Pester Power cats, Peanut, who is lying down there, and Butter. And they actually send out the instructions to all the teachers, because the children are told when we're in the schools that Peanut and Butter are very interested in how they're getting on, and they're going to be helping choose the songs and communicate. And so what happens is the children ask the teachers, when have you heard from Peanut and Butter? Don't you have an email yet? And when I use that tactic, the teachers are in regular touch. And I mean it in the nicest possible way. They are very, very busy people. But actually now our certificates too for completing the program, Peanut and Butter, appear on that as well. I'd be very happy to answer questions if anyone has any. I mean, my last slide here is what I referred to in the beginning. So as you know, concert halls cannot be open for the public. You've probably seen lots of press about the risks for singing. We are following the research very, very carefully and watching what's happening in other countries that are ahead of us, and also government advice. And we are now at the stage where a small group of singers can be in the same space. The space has to be big enough, and they have to be distanced. So the centre is ideal for this. And we have invested in filming and recording equipment, because we are going to have to do this. This is how our groups earn a living, not just for the singers, but for a whole organization to enable us to do the work that we do. So very excitingly, we have put together a Live from London concert series, which will run every Saturday between the 1st of August and the 3rd of October. And there are groups from across the UK. So VOCES8 and Apollo 5 are groups. The Swingles will be joining us. The 16, but they will be doing their concert from King's Place because it's bigger. So King's Place is partnering with us. We have an orchestra in there as well, or a small number of the Academy of Ancient Music. We have an American group called Chanticleer, fantastic male group, as well as Stile Antico and Gesualdo 6. I think I've mentioned them all. So all the ones in the UK, apart from the 16, will perform at the centre, and this will be filmed and streamed live. And anyone who purchases tickets can see it live or watch it at a later date. So you've got that flexibility. And then also they will all be remastered into high quality to then be available for another month after the series is finished. And this is really important to us because we are supporting these other artists as well. So some of them haven't done any performing yet. So we're really making this work. And also by getting our centre sorted for this, it's enabling us to get going on education now and preparation for the coming year. I'm going to stop share now. I do have a little promo video about the season, but I don't want to inundate you. And I know that Nigel has kindly agreed to be an ambassador for us. So
great. Well, thank you very much indeed, Anne. We would like to have some time for questions. So it's great you finished promptly, and I'm going to throw the floor open in a minute, but I'm going to take the luxury of asking the first question, because obviously we've seen the Apollo 5 professional singers there helping and leading the events. What is in it for them, if you like? I mean, I know it's part of what they've signed up to, I suppose, but what's in it for them in taking on this extra role? They could just spend their life singing professionally on the stage, etc. What do they get out of the engagement with these young people?
That's a great question. I should state from the outset that you can't work for our foundation if you are not committed to doing this. So when singers audition, that's part of it. But what they get out of it, it's a fascinating process, because some people come in and they they know they love working with children and young people anyway, and some aren't sure. But as time goes on, they find it rewarding because they're seeing the progress that children are making. They are part of the sheer joy of singing and performing. And, you know, children tell it like it is, don't they? You're going to know whether or not they're enjoying it. They're not going to be polite if they're not. And what I found too is because we've been working more in depth with these schools, I'm sending the same singers to work with them. So it becomes a real partnership, and they see what goes into education as a whole, and follow the children, meet the parents. So I think if they haven't got, or they're not sure about a love of helping to educate it, that's what's in it for them. They get it.
Okay, now does anybody else want to ask a question? It's very basic. Just put your hand up or take yourself off mute and speak up, because I can't see you. Oh, so Tom is first and then Peter. Sorry, Tom, I saw first. Tom Barton. Thank you.
Thanks. I was wondering, where you have your community stuff in schools and then you have the professional group, how do you bridge the gap between the kids you find in schools who have a real talent or interest in getting them into something a bit more formal if they wanted to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's signposting, really. Because we do performing and education, we haven't got time to necessarily continue working long term with children who are so talented. But I work very closely with the music hubs, and it's their role to support us in that. So if I identify some children who are clearly keen and talented and want to do it, I talk to the school, and together we point it out to the music hub so that parents can get the chance to speak to someone about what opportunities are available for the children. And I'm also going to add, because that is such a good question, we are starting a partnership with an organization called Future Talent. And Future Talent is going to help us with some of the funding, and we're also putting funding in. And this is going to be a means-tested scholarship program for 13 and 14-year-olds from disadvantaged backgrounds, so that we can support them both with some training, working with us, but also signposting them to other opportunities.
We've got a couple of past masters, so I should go first. I'm sorry, Peter. Past Master Peter Baker, who also chairs our charity committee and knows VOCES8 well. Peter, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, well, first of all, Anne, thank you very much indeed for joining this Gypsars and Dorwars presentation this evening and explaining the work of the foundation. Perhaps for the benefit of the rest of the participants, could I ask you to explain how the money that they have donated to the Plasters charity, and which in turn the trustees have granted to you, is actually physically used by the foundation?
Of course, yes. So all the money that has come from the Plasters to support goes to the delivery work of the projects. So that means paying the singing leaders for their preparation time and their work in the schools, and also paying for the concerts and events with the children at the VOCES8 Centre. And for a small amount of my time as well, I'm going out doing the teacher training and putting together the resources. So everything that you have given goes directly into delivering the program, the actual work with the children and the teachers.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I think we made a recent grant to you as well for during the lockdown period, which I presume has helped to keep your members of your foundation on the go.
Yes, yes, Peter, you have, and we're very grateful for that. The foundation has a very good set of trustees, so we came into this situation with good reserves, but obviously there's no performance income coming in, and there won't be apart from this online work which we're building up. So we have had to fundraise and be incredibly careful. So I spent some time on furlough. I'm off furlough now, so is all the team. But the foundation I should add, paid the remaining 20% of our pay, because it's valuing the people that we work with. But yes, your extra donation was hugely helpful. For that, it's been some online work with this schools and additional schools, but also my time preparing things that we can do online, because otherwise we're not going to reach people going forward.
Thank you very much, Anne. That's very helpful for explaining to our members.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Anne. And I'm going to do a write-up, so we'll talk about that then. Past Master Hubert Lacey, sorry I missed you. Please ask away.
Hello, hello, Anne. You may remember that I was the charity steward before Peter and made the first grant to you.
Yes, I do.
First of all, this is my wife. You may remember her, and she has something she wants to say.
No, I just wanted to say what an amazing thing it is you're doing, because I've taught children, disabled children, for 20 years, the 3 to 5-year-olds, and they've got behavioural problems, communicative problems, and I see the difference that the music sessions make, and when they first arrive to when they leave, and the confidence. So I just take my hat off. I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I would follow that by saying that what really impressed us when we made the first grant was that you were researching, you were auditing what you were doing. And that, I think, is the crucial thing. I'm delighted you've got an international publication out of it, because the key thing is, the more you have data like that, the more you publish, so the money will follow. I know it seems a long slog, but it just builds up a momentum, and the money will follow the research. So well done for concentrating on that.
Thank you. I think it's very important that we do it so we are learning from it too. It isn't just an exercise in saying how well we're doing. It's actually questioning and looking closely at our work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very special, Anne, that you shared that research information with us, and I'm delighted, because I think, you've often said how much of an impact, and you've often told us those stories, but it's also good to have heard the stories and to see the facts and figures. So fantastic there. Now, any more questions? I mean, I don't know, Anne, if it would be fine after I've just wound up, whether, have you got your hand up again? No, you haven't, that's all right. Whether you wanted to play.
No, Master, I was just scratching my very long locks.
I know. I realised when I stopped. Whether you wanted to play that little clip from the group at the end, just as a final piece, or is that not going to be possible? I don't mind. I know that you tried it out earlier.
I'd be happy to. It's just a little promo. It shows the groups and talks about the Live from London series. So I'm very happy to share that if people would like to.
And I think we'll send around a link to that, because people may well want to take part, and that would be great. So absolutely fantastic, Anne. Thank you so much. I forgot to mention earlier that we are actually recording today. Anne said that would be okay, and obviously the slides as well. So you also should remember that the last one that we had, which was with Helen Tapper from FIS, that was also recorded. And now the whole thing is on the members part of the website. So if you didn't manage last time, Helen Tapper, it's on the website in the members area. There's a link in the newsletter. So do go on. It's only an hour, and it's worth seeing again. And I certainly will probably be watching this again, Anne, because I do a little write-up, and it would be nice to see it again in sort of slow time, so to speak. So thank you very, very much indeed. It is fantastic what you do. It's so heartwarming to think we can be part of that. You're right next door to us. We've all enjoyed coming to see your work with the children live, and also to see it now on video as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very, very much indeed. And I'll just remind plasterers that 2 weeks' time, there's the last of this series of talks, and it's going to be by Dr. Claire Gapper, and she's going to be talking about a house and all the plaster work in this historic 17th century house. So there's quite a lot of technical stuff, but those non-plasterers need to know a bit more about how real proper heritage plastering works, and you proper plasterers will, I'm sure, be able to add in and help us understand as well. So 2 weeks' time. But if Anne, you're happy, if we could play out with your little live piece.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well
and thank
done,
you.
Anne.
Thumbs
Thank
up.
you, Anne, very
Well
much.
done, Anne.
Hi, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's really interesting.
Bye.
Thank you.
Now we just hope the video works.
I think it'll be okay.
Yeah,
Let's
good.
go.
Festival featuring some of the shining stars from the world of a cappella, live online from VOCES8's Wren Church in London.
Filmed in HD from the VOCES8 Centre, live from London celebrates some of the world's finest vocal groups.
The festival will be broadcast live online every Saturday for 10 weeks from the 1st of August to the 3rd of October.
A portion of all tickets sold will be put towards funding for grassroots music education and to addressing topics of diversity, equality, inclusion and accessibility in choral music.
Ticket prices have been structured to benefit artists and promoters alike and to help them cover their COVID-19 losses.
We'd love you to join us for this unique series, live from London.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Great. So folks, you can all switch off or stay along for a little chat. It's really up to you how you feel. So Anne, thank you. You certainly don't need to stay any longer, and thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Anne.
you.
Talk
Nice to
later.
see you, Anne.
Take care.
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.